Hey, what's up? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have a very fun video planned for you, and it's basically going to be try a chapter of new thriller and horror books, and it's also going to feature my sister. So basically, I asked Rachel if she was down, and she was like, yes. And how this works is I picked 10 either new release or soon to be released thriller and horror books that I'm really interested in. And then I had Rachel pick 5 books that she was intrigued by to read the first chapter for, and then I read the other 5, and then we gave you our feedback in this video. And so it's a super fun time, so make sure to stick around. But before we do jump into that, I wanted to say a huge thank you to today's video sponsor, which is Bright Cellars. Bright Cellars is one of my favorite video sponsors to work with because if you didn't know what they are a wine company that allows you to try wines from all over the world. I have found some of my new favorite wines because of Bright Cellars, which includes these 2 bottles here, and for that I am forever grateful. I think one of my favorite hobbies recently has been to try different bottles of wine and to see what I like and figure out my taste. So after you take a quick 7-question quiz, they match you with wines from all over the world curated to your taste palette. It's super convenient because they send the wine right to your door so you don't even have to leave your house. And part of what makes Bright Cellars so awesome and so unique is the fact that they come with all of these education cards, and these wine education cards have pretty much everything that you could and should know about your bottle of wine. Like, it has the main kind of flavors that are in the wine, it has the best serving temperature, it has what it pairs well with, so if you're like making a certain dinner and you want a wine that will pair well with that, it'll let you know on the back, and it'll also tell you where the wine came from in the world. Their concierge team is also very helpful with any questions that you might have, and with each box that they send you, every time you rate the wines that you receive, it helps them better understand your taste for the next box. This time around, I also got to try this one called Post Haste, and this one has some green pear, green apple, lemon, and citrus blossom in it. This one was really interesting. And then I think I found a new favorite in this bottle called Well Fleet. This one's a white blend that has notes of pineapple, guava, white pepper, and honeysuckle. This one also comes from California, and let me tell you, the pineapple flavor in this is truly something else. It's exceptional. So thank you so much again to Bright Cellars for giving my followers a limited time offer of up to 50% off their first 6-bottle box. Click the link in the description to get started. And thank you so much again to Bright Cellars for sponsoring today's video. It's sponsors like Bright Cellars that help me continue to create the content that I create. So by supporting Bright Cellars, you can be directly supporting my channel. And now, without any further ado, let's get into today's video. It's such a fun time. Alright, so we are here because we've read some things, and
Indeed.
This is my sister Rachel.
Yo.
If you haven't seen her before,
Where have you been?
it's Rachel. I feel like that TikTok when it's like, it's corn! It's corn! And so we both read some things. We each read 5 new thriller and horror releases, and we thought it would be fun to just kind of give like a taste test, like a little sample, and kind of tell you how we feel about the first chapters. I love doing these videos because I feel like, especially with thriller and horror books, I feel like they really should be able to grip you from that first chapter, you know? And I feel like the first chapter really gives you an idea of like how the rest of the book is going to be with like the tone and the writing and all that. So I've loved doing these videos in the past. I'll have all of the times linked down below that I've done this before, but we're also going to be ranking each chapter on a scale of like 1 to 10 on how interested we are in it and how much it makes us want to continue reading.
I think it's cool too because it's from an experienced reader and then from one that's...
Yeah, you get the point of view of someone who reads a lot of horror and thrillers, and then you also get the point of view of someone who reads a few sometimes, you know? So I'm gonna mix it up sometimes, you know? Anyways, I'll get started with the first one that I read the first chapter of was Daphne by Josh Malerman.
I thought I was reading this one because one of the main characters is Daphne in this other one.
Oh, no.
And I kept looking at the title being like, wait, is it
You're like, did I read that one?
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, so Daphne was the first one that I read, and the first thing that I noticed about this is that there actually are no chapters. It's all just like long, like paragraphs of text that are broken up by these little symbol, like there's like little 3 dots that kind of separate things, but for the most part there are actually no chapters. So cool. But anyways, this story is about this girl who's in high school and she's on her local basketball team, and there's this kind of legend about this woman named Daphne who, like, if you think about her too much, she's gonna like come
like
and
Bloody
kill you.
Mary?
Yeah, it's like if you think about her, she's gonna kill you. And so the whole thing is that you're not supposed to think about Daphne. But our main character, we kind of get in between the chapters of like her playing basketball with the team and stuff, we get her journal entries where she's like writing about how she's like saying that she has a lot of anxiety and that it's so hard for her to not think about Daphne when people tell her to stop thinking about Daphne. And so I almost wonder if this Daphne character is kind of like a metaphor for anxiety.
You're going like way into depth.
I mean, it's just really interesting.
I feel like mine are just gonna be like, cool.
Well, it's just really interesting. I don't know. I feel like this one, though, I'm not a huge fan of the writing style so far. I'm actually finding it, like, really hard to follow. It's just written in a way that's, like, very confusing. And so it wasn't my favorite opening chapter. I mean, the little bit that I read, because there is no chapters, but I would give this, like, a 5 out of 10. I'm not, like, super intrigued to keep reading. But at the same time, like, because it's Josh Malerman and because I've been hyping this book for so long, like, I'm definitely going to continue reading. But I'm not, like, the most intrigued by that first chapter. You know?
Sucks.
Yeah. Okay, what was your first?
Mine was Suburban Hell.
Oh, I love this book cover.
Yes,
it's not the cutest. Cute. Yeah, this one's like humor horror kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Vibe.
So the first chapter was very funny. There was absolutely no horror. I didn't even realize it was like a thriller.
Oh.
So it has, right out of the gate, it has so many great references. It talks about Target, Home Goods, Lululemons, talks about Heath Ledger and Some Things I Hate About You.
Okay.
It talks about Halloween and Scream and like all the fun movies.
Dang, okay.
And it's just basically, it kind of gives you that classic like Finlay Donovan humor.
Oh.
Where they're like moms. They're all moms.
Like suburban.
Yes. And it's just, it seems very cute. I'm assuming it's some kind of spell or curse in this town that makes it like hell or something.
Yeah.
But it's very cute. It sets it up very well. I think it's very intriguing. It seems really funny. Like the humor's on point if you're like that kind of girl that loves that shit that I mentioned before, which I do, because she's like, oh, these girls walking around with their high-waisted Lulus, and I'm literally wearing high-waisted Lulus.
You're like, I feel called
like,
out right now.
Okay, but yeah, so it looks very, I mean, it sounds like it's gonna be very entertaining. I like the main character so far. I like all the girls in it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sounds like a win.
I gave it 8 out of 10 because it reads very easy.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
it's quick.
Yeah, like it's gonna be a fun, quick read.
Cool.
I recommend it too. I guess if you're not really into horror necessarily, because it seems like an easy one to get into. Because
I know. I wonder
what
the horror aspect is, because the way in the cover it looks like her hand. So I'm like,
It's
is she a
hell.
monster? Is like one of the characters a
No,
monster?
I think like the first chapter ends with like they all like clink their wine glasses together, and then like a weird wind comes through them, and they're like, oh, that sounds like good, and then she's like, and no, it did not turn out to be good. So I think it's like a curse or something.
Interesting.
Or like witches, or like, that's my guess, but
I'm really curious
who
to
knows?
read this one. I've been seeing it going around.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it seems like it's really cute. I mean, I would read it.
Seems like the perfect October read.
Yeah, solid 8 out of 10 so far.
Nice,
so.
nice. Okay, the next one that I read is this horror book called Leech. And this is one that I've kind of been seeing going around Instagram. This one's like a horror kind of gothic sci-fi, is what the genre says on Goodreads. So I was like, okay. And so at the beginning of this, chapter, we're following some kind of dude who's traveling on this train, and he's just like staring at this little boy, and it's written like really beautifully. Like he's on his way to this institution, and that's kind of all we know. And it's like building this like snowy kind of atmosphere, which was kind of nice. And then, I mean, the writing's really beautiful, but it's also very wordy. If that makes sense. Like, it was just like, oh my gosh, like, get to the point. Like, it was, it took its time. He gets to the institution, and they're like, oh, let me show you around. And he's like, no, take me to the corpse, or whatever, like, right away. And they're like, oh, okay. So they're like, we actually put the corpse out in the snow to, like, preserve it a little bit longer. Oh. And I think he's just, like, one of those people that, like, can inspect a dead body and, like, figure out how long they've been dead and, that kind of thing. And so then, though, while he's inspecting the corpse, he pulls out a tiny creature or something like that from the corpse, and then the little creature, like, dies before he gets the chance to, like, inspect it or whatever. And then the chapter just ends with him saying, it appears that I have a competitor. Like, I'm sorry, what? And so I think what I'm pretty sure this book is about some kind of parasite that infects this institution.
Yeah, leech.
Yeah, and so I'm like,
that makes sense.
Like,
ew.
And so I don't know how I feel about this first chapter, because I feel like it was interesting. I liked how it ended, was interesting, but it was also very like wordy and kind of like I was getting distracted a lot while I was reading it, because it was just a little bit long, and I don't know. So I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Oh, that's low.
I know, I feel like talking about it though, I should give it like a 6 or 7, because I'm intrigued.
That seems intriguing.
I'm intrigued, but the writing also has this like historical feel to it. it almost feels like...
So you basically like the idea, but you don't like...
I know, I like the idea of it.
Right.
I don't know if I love the reading experience so far, though. You know, it feels very kind of like historical, kind of slower than what I'm used to. And maybe this would be better, though, to save for the winter time because of the winter atmosphere in it. So that might be the case. I don't know. I'm not, like, jumping to pick this one up right now, you know?
I see.
But it was interesting.
That's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. So my next one was Sign Here.
Ooh.
I fucking love this.
Yes.
I fucking love... I might actually read this.
Oh my gosh.
Because
No way.
it is so fucking clever. And it's only 2 pages long.
Wow.
And I literally was like laughing.
Oh shit.
So it's so funny because it just... It's like this character... It's like... Okay, what does that show you like?
Oh, The Good Place?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
It's like that, right? Where the character's already there. And they're like... pitching hell to you as a person that's not in hell.
Oh, okay.
And it's really funny because you're just kind of like, what the fuck? They're like, so this is what humans say. They say, I'm in hell all the time. They're like, yeah, that is hell. Like, it's very like, it's like it's talking to you.
Yeah.
And I really like
breaking
it.
the fourth wall.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's
Okay.
very charismatic. I can already tell, like, you know, like those kind of books like The Humans or something? It's very like that, how it's talking to you, like, personally, and like it makes you it's just very witty with this comedy, and I just love the first, like, what he describes hell is. It's very funny, and I just love the last line of the first chapter is really funny. And he's like, yeah, that would be the first floor, you know? Like when he describes his story about how you get stuck on the subway and some guy farts on you and you whatever, and you say, I'm in hell, yes. And he's like, yeah, you would be right, that is hell. And he's like, but that's just the first floor. And he's like, and you wonder why I'm still doing this? Because I got a promotion. And it's like, it's funny because you're like, wait, what is going on? And it's really funny.
Yeah, this book, if you don't know like anything what it's about, it actually follows a character who works in hell.
Well,
like,
yeah,
literally.
it's like, that's what I mean. You don't really know that, though. Like, it's very strange. It's like, the way it words it is just like, you just kind of assume, oh, okay, he's in hell. Yeah, sure. But, like, the way he's, like, talking about it, it's very, very funny. Like, very funny.
It's good.
I feel like this would make a really cute TV show. Like, just right off of that, I'm like, holy shit, that would be really funny.
Damn.
I gave it a 9.
9. Not a solid 10.
No, not a solid 10. I didn't give
okay.
any of these a 10, but I mean 9 is really fucking high.
Dang.
And I put on my notes, I must read.
Oh, okay. Well.
And I said intriguing as hell. No pun intended.
Oh, she's got jokes. So she's got jokes. Okay, then the next book that I read the first chapter of is We Spread by Ian Reid. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year because this is the same author as I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Is it like a flu bug?
I don't know. It's not exactly that. Like I honestly, after reading the premise and reading the first chapter, I don't really know exactly what this book is about. I just know that we're following this woman, and I think it has a lot to do with like the psychology of this woman and like her mind. But this first chapter was kind of sad, but it was also just very compelling, and it was kind of about this woman just reflecting on her life and this life that she's had with this man who, it's unclear to me if he was like her husband or her boyfriend, but I think he was like her lover. And she's kind of talking about how they fell in love and it was so magical and how they had this life together, but then they started to get used to each other and then they started to get annoyed with each other, and then he died. And it was just like, you know, the writing was just so beautiful though, and it was a really nice way to like start this story, because even though like that chapter was beautiful and it stands on its own, but I have no idea really what the book's gonna be about, but I'm definitely intrigued to continue reading. So
spread about like depression or something?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's unclear to me, like, what exactly the book is going to be about, but that only intrigues me more, and I think because it's the same author as I'm Thinking of Ending Things and Foe, which I both, you know, really enjoyed those books, and I'm really, like, I love this author's particular style of writing when it comes to horror. I love, too, like, there was this one quote that I really liked, when she was saying, like, as we grew older, we spent more time apart, even when we were both home in the apartment. She says there was no more mystery, there was nothing to learn, wonder was replaced with awareness. By the end, it wasn't just familiarity, I had a total and complete understanding of him. And it's just like, the writing is just gorgeous like that. Like, I don't know, I love it. Like, it didn't really feel like too much horror in that first chapter, but it was beautiful.
So what'd you give it?
10 out of 10. No, like, I cannot wait to pick this book up. Like, I'm itching to continue reading it. And yeah, so I guess on Goodreads it does say it's a work of philosophical suspense. And it's saying you're following this woman named Penny, who's an artist who's been living in the same apartment for decades. And it's saying as the days start to blur together, she has a growing sense of unrest and distrust, and she starts to lose her grip on the passage of time and her place in the world.
What if she, like, killed her husband?
I don't, like, Who knows?
Okay, the next one I read was The Family Game. Okay. Mixed feelings.
Okay.
And not in a bad way.
Frenchie has joined the party.
Love you. Love you. Okay. No, okay. So I have mixed feelings about this because it wasn't bad, okay? Like, I don't mean it to be bad. I gave it a 6.
Okay.
So here's how I feel about it. Like, okay, I'll tell you what I wrote. It is intriguing. It's kind of confusing because you don't really know what's going on. And it doesn't read as easy as the other two did. But I know that's because the other ones were more humorous, so I think that's why. But it's like, it's definitely interesting, but I'm not as like, okay, like, I feel like it's almost too cookie cutter, like, oh, and I'm bleeding from my head, and I'm
like, the writing just isn't
and it's like you don't know, like, is this girl only with this guy for the money because she's like, would I do this again? That's $1 billion question, you know?
Okay.
It's like okay, this girl's literally bleeding, and it sounds like she's like in a pit or a basement or something, bleeding from her forehead.
So it's like a flash forward at the beginning of like what happened after.
Yeah, and it's like bleeding from her forehead, and she's like still like, would I do this again? I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, because the whole thing is that it's this girl, right, who's like marrying into a rich family, and they have some kind of game element that's involved. I think is what this one's about.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't really explain anything in the first chapter.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just like, okay.
So the writing isn't your favorite.
No, I mean, it's like I said, it is probably, it's not bad to read. I felt like it uses not like big words, but it's more like if you're trying to read this fast, like it's just not gonna happen. You need to kind of sit there and read it slower to understand, grasping what she's putting down. But it's definitely, it's interesting. I just think for me personally, it wasn't as like gripping as I would have liked it to be. I mean, to me, it just like wasn't really like atmospheric as the other ones were, I guess. And it wasn't really like, it didn't really do a good job by like setting the scene for like the character, you know, because you don't really know what's going on. And yeah, we don't know any backstory on the family, like absolutely nothing. Like you said that she's marrying into this family, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think just from the blurb, because I thought the blurb sounded so much like Ready or Not or something.
That's what I'm saying. And you know what I was saying too is that this book, when you gave it to me, out of all the books, I was most excited for this one.
Yeah, I know. I was honestly pretty excited about this one too.
And it's my lowest rated one.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Okay. Well, I mean, still 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I know it's not terrible.
It's not
like,
terrible.
it might actually be the best book of all time. Just a horrible first chapter.
I mean,
not horrible. Okay, it wasn't horrible. I don't want to keep saying that. It's okay. It's mediocre, but it might actually be a good book.
Okay, so the next one that I read the first chapter of is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. And this
I don't like that title.
Yeah, this one, The Weight of Blood, was interesting. It's one of my most anticipated books of the year. It's actually like a Carrie retelling that's by one of my favorite horror authors, Tiffany D. Jackson. She's been doing some incredible things, and so I was very, very hyped for this one. And this one was really cool because it starts with this interview clip about like, it's like an interview clip interviewing someone about the prom night, and they were like, there was only 2 kids that survived the prom.
So it's like Big
whatever.
Little Lies or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like Big Little Lies, and it's very like Carrie vibes too. And the kid, like one of the only kids that survived prom is mumbling like, Maddie did it, or whatever. And they're like, what? And then the first chapter, it takes place in 2014, and then we're following this girl named Maddie who's in her gym class, and they're like, the gym teacher's telling them like, oh, we're gonna have to run the mile or whatever, which like, high school flashbacks. Like, oh my god, I hated gym. I hated how you had to wear the like gym outfits, everything about it. Anyways,
yeah, it's good.
So she's like freaking out because she's like, it's gonna rain or whatever, and she's like, she's like, we need to get back inside, like it's gonna rain. And the gym teacher's like, well then you better run faster then, or whatever. And she's like saying how if she had known it was gonna rain that day, like she would have stayed home. She's like saying like, I even like when it's only like 20%,
like the witch.
Well, I was thinking that at first, but then it ends up being because of her hair. Like her hair gets really like big and like puffy when it rains, and so then of course all the kids start bullying her like relentlessly, like brutally in the class because it does rain, you know, while she's running the mile, and then her hair just gets so poofy, and then when she's in the class, all the other kids start bullying her, making fun of her, they're throwing stuff in her hair and, you know, just being awful. And then, of course, she, like, screams and all the desks, like, get thrown like fucking, you know, 11 from Stranger Things style. It was a very entertaining first chapter, you know, like, it definitely gave me, like...
packed.
I know, it gave me, like, a lot of, like, high school flashbacks, but, like, in a way that's, like, nostalgia almost, but also, like, because of the bullying and the fucking PE uniforms and all that. But at the same time, like, I like the idea of a Carrie retelling because I'm not the biggest fan of Carrie, like, the actual book, but I love the concept in it. So I'm always looking for things that are kind of, like, a retelling or, like, a reimagining of Carrie. And this one was really interesting. Like, I gave that first chapter a 9 out of 10. I'm really excited to continue reading this one.
Next one I read was Just the Nicest Couple.
Just the Nicest Couple.
Ooh, have you been hearing about this?
Yeah, this one doesn't come out till January, so this is an ARC copy. Yeah, this author I have hit or miss feelings with, so.
This is my favorite one.
No way!
Yeah, I gave it like a 9.5. I kind of want to give it a 10. Like
9.5.
Like, okay.
Holy shit.
This starts out with literally the most fast-paced, heart-wrenching, pacing prologue, right?
Oh,
like, it's only
okay.
like a page and a half, and you're like, what the... And then it goes into the most mysterious, loving, weird... I can't even explain to you the eeriness that I got from the first chapter.
Ooh.
It is so well done, the imagery, and how creepy, but, like, also sad. I don't know how to explain it. It just starts out with, like, so the first chapter, the prologue, I don't even know who it is. There's no names, there's nothing, so you don't know exactly.
So it's like
it
an
says on the
anonymous...
back here 2 couples. I didn't even know that.
Oh.
But apparently the first one, you don't know what's going on. It's just like, whoa, there's a lot of things happening, no names, nothing. So I don't really know exactly what the prologue was about. But the first chapter, it's like focusing on this like husband and wife and she's like pregnant and she's teaching, and I just loved it because it's like really sweet. It's from the husband's perspective, and he talks about how his wife keeps getting so tired coming home from teaching all day, being on her feet and being pregnant, and she's not cooking anymore and she's acting so different. And it's like, it's weird because you're like, okay, like she's pregnant.
Yeah.
But he seems like he's like noticing these new things, and he's like trying to do more research on why his wife's acting so different when she's pregnant, but he's like, I know it's just pregnancy, blah blah blah. And he starts getting all these weird vibes from her. Like, he thinks she's sleeping in her chair, like she's sitting up sleeping, and he thinks she's sleeping, and he goes to her, but she's like awake. Like, her eyes are open, and he's like, yo, like, babe, you're alright.
That's creepy.
And then he's like, weird shit starts happening, so he's like, we go up to, like, we go to bed, she's gonna go to bed, right? And she goes upstairs, and she's like, lock the doors, and he's like, yeah, like, he's like, I always do, I don't know why she's talking about it now. And then he goes, and she's like, turn on the alarms, like, the burglary alarms, right? And he's like, yeah, okay, like, he's like, I don't know why she keeps telling me to do these things, like, we've been doing it every single day, this isn't normal, this is normal, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes to bed, and he sees her fucking looking out the window like this, and he's like, yo, are you okay? And he goes to touch her, and she fucking, like, jumps.
Oh, God.
And she's like, I didn't think that was you. And he's like, who else did you think it was?
Yeah.
And she's like, I just didn't hear you coming up the stairs. And he's like, that's weird. Like, in his head, he's like, that's weird. Who else would she think it is? Like, it doesn't matter if she didn't hear me coming up the stairs. It's me. Like, whatever. And then she's, like, acting very strange. Like, she keeps being like, who are you looking out the window? And she's like, nobody. I just thought I heard something. It's just, it's a very like,
creepy.
it sets the tone. It's very weird. I really like it, especially because of what the prologue was. Like,
the
what
prologue
the fuck?
was like an anonymous point of view. Like, you're not supposed to know
like,
who it is.
I think.
But it's like a flash forward potentially of what is
I
to
think
come.
so. But it's like, it's very like I said, the prologue is literally not even a full page. And it's very quick, and it's like, whoa, okay. And then you're like, what the fuck's happening? And then it goes into that really weird chapter.
Interesting. That does sound really good.
And it's like, yeah, and I like it too, because it's like, I like when we get this like backstory. I like when we can see how much the husband loves her. You know, there's a lot of love there, and like, there's so much history, and so I feel like that makes horror and thriller a lot more scarier when there's a lot more at stake here. I mean, this woman's pregnant, they're married, and it seems like, I don't know, it sounds like some kind of home invasion. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. I wonder if it's more too of like a psychological thing with her, or if there's actually like a physical threat. It's so interesting, you know, this author is, she wrote Local Woman Missing, which was one of my favorite thrillers that I read last year. But then the other previous thriller that I had read from this author was like one of my least favorite thrillers that I've ever read. So that's why with this one, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like we'll see. But
I think you'll like it.
I mean, from what you just said, it sounds interesting. It also looks like we do get the husband and the wife's point of view. Maybe.
Yeah, but see, Nina isn't in. Nina wasn't the first
She's
chapter.
the different couple.
Yeah, because Lily is. Jake.
Okay, so I think we get two couples, but we get the point of view of the guy in one and then the girl in the other couple.
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
Or maybe it goes between all four, but it was just really good. It was really good.
Well, that's good to hear. But yeah, this one comes out January 10th next year, so this one is an art copy. And then the last book that I read the first chapter of was this book called Ghost Eaters. Yeah, the cover's a little bit spooky, and then the title of the book is a little bit like, I don't know, like. Yeah, when I say it, it doesn't sound scary. Like ghost eaters, I don't know. But this is a horror, gothic, paranormal type of book, according to Goodreads. And this book, so we open with this scene of like a bunch of teenagers. I think it's unclear to me how old these people are supposed to be, but I'm guessing they're teenagers just based off of their behavior. So it's a bunch of teenagers breaking into this cemetery that's called Hollywood. Like the cemetery itself is called Hollywood, and they're all on acid and they're like tripping out. Like it's kind of obnoxious, to be honest, because it's just like anytime you read about characters under the influence, they're just like, what are you doing? You know, like it's just kind of annoying. So they're all tripping out on acid, and then this boy in the group that's like her boyfriend of them, I think, he's saying that you have to steal the tongue of a revenant to speak to the dead. So he's like trying. I think he's trying to like dig up a body to like take the tongue of this person, and then they start to see. How do you know if
they're fresh? Oh, I guess there's a date.
Yeah, I don't even know, dude. But they see all these, like, what they think are ghosts, and then they start to realize, oh my god, it's actually security flashlights. Like, the security's coming to see them, whatever. So they all start running and, like, trying to hide. And then this girl and her boyfriend, like, they separate from the rest of their friend group or whatever. And they... I feel so weird even saying this. This is so fucking weird. But they start to have sex. Okay. Like, somewhere hidden in the cemetery. Of course they do. And then in her mind, she's starting to compare his fingers to, like, worms going in and out of her. And, like, the writing was just so fucking weird and, like, strange. And it's, like, I don't know if it's because she was on acid or, like, what the heck was going on in this story. But, like, after reading that first chapter, I gave this a 1 out of 10. Like, I have absolutely no interest in continuing with this one. I know, like, I just did not like it at all. I know, and my friend Ashley actually did recently just read this one. And from her review, she said that this book reads a lot more young adult than she was expecting. And I was like, well, that makes sense because this first chapter feels like they're teenagers, but I don't think they're supposed to be. I don't know. I'm just very confused on this one, and like the writing was just really annoying in the first chapter to me. It felt very repetitive and like disjointed, and it was just not a good time. So I'll probably be removing this one from my TBR, sadly. No! Yeah, what a bummer.
Ghost eaters?
Yeah, not ghost eaters. This is the last one. Just like home. Tell me good things.
Before I even dive into this, listen to this dedication.
Okay.
This is the story of monsters and what they do to those who love them, those who fear them, and those who are simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or from a different perspective, those who are in the right place at the right time. Serendipity is just as cruel as it is kind. This book is dedicated to anyone who's ever loved a monster.
Whoa.
I was like, I'm so glad I read this dedication because just off that is insane.
That's deep.
Like, okay, and just with that, this first chapter had so many metaphors. I was like, it was like I was reading a poetry book. It's beautiful.
Oh gosh, like in a good way though?
Yeah,
or like
okay, I'm conflicted. I gave it a 7.5 because not sure exactly how I feel about the characters. But I really love, it sets it up. It feels like Haunting of Hill House Home Before Dark.
Well, that's great because the inside flap compares it to Haunting of Hill House.
It feels like that because it's a house. And she keeps saying, this is the house my mom's gonna die in. This is the house my mom's gonna die in. And I'm like, yeah, what? I'm just gonna read like some of these fucking lines because I was like, bro, what? Like, the first line of this book says, the Crowder house clung to the soil the way damp air clings to hot skin.
Oh, okay.
Like, bitch, what?
Vibes are strong.
And it is very, very fucking interesting.
What is it about you're following the daughter, right? And she's talking about her mom.
So she's coming back, and I don't know if this house, like, multiple people have died in. It's her childhood home. Oh my god, I do not know if her dad's dead, but I think her dad may have died in there. I think her sister may have died.
Oh.
Dude, do not take my word for it. Okay, look at this. Daphne dying inside. This is why I thought I was reading Daphne, but...
Interesting.
And I kept, like... But, okay, yeah, so I think her sister does die.
Okay.
And so she's very, like, I don't want to be here. And I think her mom's gonna die.
Oh.
So it's, like, just her coming to, like, this house that's, like, horrifying.
So it's depressing a little bit, too.
Yes, very. Okay, he built it with his 2 strong hands. She's talking about her dad. Built it right in the middle of this square patch of green land. Built 2 stories above ground and dug 1 below. He built it for Daphne to live and to die in. Like, it's very strange.
Yeah.
It's like the air was thick with the smell of jasmine and lilacs and wisteria, overpoweringly sweet, so dense Vera wanted to bite into it. Like, it's like, what is going on?
That's very, like, it uses, like, all of your senses.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's very visionary. It's very imagery.
Dang.
She couldn't do either of those things with 1 foot on the lawn and 1 foot on the driveway, her eyes full of sun and her lungs full of syrup. Like, bro, what the fuck
That's
is
beautiful.
happening?
That's poetry.
Being outside was almost as impossible as going inside.
You know, books like that, I really appreciate, like, beautiful writing, especially in, like, a horror thriller, but I feel like at times it can be a little bit distracting.
It is,
or,
that's
like,
what I'm saying, because it's like...
Because it can make you feel like, wait, what is actually happening?
Like, Vera knew better than to let this development give her hope, but she couldn't seem to shake the feeling. It bubbled up like a blister and stuck like a scar.
Wow.
You know?
Okay, yeah, I mean, the writing is pretty beautiful.
Yeah, and then it just ends with the place where her mother was going to die. I'm just like, alright, everybody's gonna die here. And it's just very interesting. So if that intrigues you, like, I think the writing was very beautiful. It has a lot of metaphors. I love that, personally. I just think it's, like, I just don't know, I guess, how I feel about Vera, necessarily. It's, like, it's, obviously, books are a lot harder to read when you're not really, like, clicking with the main character.
Yeah.
But I do think it's, like, it set it up very well. It seems very ambiguous.
Dang.
I love the atmosphere. It sounds really creepy.
It's exciting.
And I love, like, houses that have, like, so much history.
Yeah.
I think that makes it so creepy.
And if it's, like, kind of like a haunted house feel to the story, like, if it's being compared to, like, Haunting of Hill House, that has me intrigued.
Yeah. So I think it'll be a good read if you want to read it in, like, October. Like,
well, that's perfect, because it's my October book troop book club.
Oh, is it?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we will be reading this one all together this month, so that gives me hope. You know, it's hard, though, because a lot of my friends have been rating this one really low. So
See,
I'm
I
like,
could see it.
I'm nervous.
Could see it. I feel like it might do that thing where it almost sounds too beautiful and you kind of don't get much story because the writer is focusing more on,
it's like about feelings and...
Yeah, which is, like, that's fine, too, but... I'm hoping that it gets there. Look at this fucking photo. Like, this house is dripping blood.
I know, it's one of my favorite book covers. Like, I love the pink against the red blood.
Yeah, it looks really good. And I
Ooh.
think this book is beautiful. It's red.
It's stunning. Okay, so out of the 5 books that you read, I mean, I think I already know, but which one was your favorite, like, automatically want to read?
Well, actually, I don't know. These 2.
Okay.
These 2. Because this is also, too, based off of the total mood, okay? If I was feeling, like, if I wanted to pick me up, I'd probably read this.
Yes.
And if I wanted a fucking, holy fuck, you know,
Thriller.
this.
Yeah. Okay. And then out of the ones that I read, I think my personal favorites, I mean, mine was definitely We Spread is my favorite. That's the one I want to continue reading the most. But then also The Weight of Blood. I really enjoyed The Weight of Blood. Okay, and then out of mine, which one sounds the most intriguing?
The Weight of Blood.
The Weight of Blood. Okay. Interesting. And then out of yours, I think I would have to go Sign Here. Like, I'm so intrigued by this now.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, before...
You probably love this one.
Before you even mentioned this, like, or before, I wasn't even sure if I was like, do I really want to pick this up anytime soon? Like, I don't know.
It's so cute.
But now that you talked about it, I'm like, I kind of want to pick this up sooner rather than later.
I think you would love it. I think you would love it.
Yeah, so now I kind of want to get to this one before the end of October. So
I think that'd be a good idea.
That's exciting. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining in and for reading with me.
No problem.
I thought this was a fun experiment, and you know, maybe this would be a fun thing for us to do again in the future if you would like to see us, you know, try some more chapters.
Would you like to see me read?
Yeah, would you like to see Rachel's book reviews more on this channel? Like, just let me know. Yeah, I just love doing try chapters just because I do think it's so much fun to kind of get a taste of the book, and it can really help you figure out which books you want to prioritize. So it's a good time, you know?
Yeah.
And thanks so much for hanging out with us and for chilling, and we will see you next time. Bye!